Thanks to our guests for their presentations. I think what you've just said there, Mr. Cullen, that travel is being used as a bogeyman for the lack of investment in every other area to do with the virus, is a pretty big claim, and I'd like to just tease that out with you, because although you do say that your work is all about safety and risk management, and there's no doubt about it in terms of the level of record on health and safety, that airlines and airline flying is one of the safest forms of transport. But in a situation where countries that have a huge level of R rating, the rate of infection is very high, for example, parts of the United States, would you not agree that opening up travel to and from those countries, regardless of how safe it is when one is actually travelling, but when people come into the countries, that it makes it much more difficult to manage the virus for any government? If you're taking people, say, from Texas in big numbers into Ireland, it makes it much more difficult for us as a state to manage the virus, if not in the actual travelling itself, but the arrival of people into countries where you're trying to manage it.
Deputy, I absolutely agree with what you've said. What I'm saying is there should be a green list that's informed, that is understood and has expertise involved in it. The green list that Ireland has published is clearly uninformed. And the evidence is overwhelming when you take, for example, the Canary Islands. Like, to suggest that the Canary Islands should be part from a national health strategy of Spain and the problems that they've had in Madrid is nonsense. The Canary Islands is the same distance from Spain as Iceland is from Ireland. Like, who drew up this list? What was their logic? Because it wasn't based on science, Deputy.
I mean, I think it's somebody called it the Father Ted policy, because things like Monaco and other states that just don't make sense. But
what we have is that when people like us, who are safety professionals, look at what came out of a government decision, a green list, it really does challenge our confidence in the government, because it was a blunt instrument, uninformed, and it needs to be rectified. We cannot have a situation where a government, a sovereign government, makes such blunt decisions.
I don't disagree with you there, but on the wider question of opening up travel, because you do claim in your submission that aviation, and you did say that aviation was being treated as the bogeyman in all of this. On the wider question, there are things that I think we have to look at. For example, the HEPA systems that you talk about. We have people in Bus Éireann, for example, who are put into grave danger as workers in Bus Éireann because there's no proper air filtration systems, and they're looking for the HEPA system. Does that HEPA system exist in the airports, for example? Is all aviation as safe as you're describing in terms of the airplanes? And just another question, do you believe that the flight should be flying full? I mean, we go on Dublin bus now, there's a big gap between you, whether you're on the Luas or the bus. Why would you then get on an airplane and sit 3 together in a row, and then the next row 3 together, and the whole airplane full? Does that make sense?
Yes, I've no expertise whatsoever on the air conditioning and systems in buses. All I can tell you is at the airport, I do not believe the airport has the HEPA system, but what the airport does have is space for social distancing. I need to get back to the aircraft. The aircraft are designed from day one to cater for highly infectious diseases and to prevent passenger transmission, not just for this virus, but for many other deadly viruses. Any aircraft, when it comes off the production line, can end up in any part of the planet, and therefore it has to be built to be able to survive in any part of the planet and to deliver people safely in any part of the planet. That's why I'm able to say with absolute confidence that passenger-to-passenger transmission, if people are wearing masks and people obey the proper etiquettes, they will be safe on the aircraft. I fully accept there are parts of the planet to which there should be are very restrictive travel, and you've named some of them. But I have to get back to the point I'm making, is that we should have a proper.
I mean, just one final question for Mr. Cullen.
You can come in at the end if there is.
Well, I didn't get a chance to ask him. Just one final question.
I can't. You have taken 5 minutes.
I didn't take it. I didn't take it.
Well,
It's a short question.
No, I'm sorry, but you can come in at the end if there's any time. But I do have a duty to bring in everybody here. I'd happily.
It's a very short question.
I'd happily bring you in at the end, Deputy Smith. I'm sorry, I have tried. The first 2 speakers went well over, and since then I've been trying to insist on the time. I'm sorry.
So the first 2 speakers, okay for them to go over, but not.
Well, I asked people not to go over anymore. I mean, now we can spend a lot of time arguing about it, or we can leave some time at the end to come in. I will bring in, but I want to treat everybody equally and get everybody in. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you.